this week's Technique Tuesday video, I'll demonstrate how to tink and fix intentionally twisted stitches. As always, if you'd like to jump right to a specific point in the video, there are direct links down in the description. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how a twisted stitch is tinked and how that's the same and how it's different than how you would tink knits and purl stitches. When tinking any stitch, the working yarn is positioned where it would be positioned if you were actually working that type of stitch. So for a knit stitch, which I want to tink here, the yarn isn't back where it would be if I were actually knitting that stitch. So I take my needle and I insert from front to back in the stitch under the needle, not the stitch on the needle, and then I let the stitch on the needle come off. So I have 3 knit stitches in a row, and again I'm inserting from front to back through the stitch that's under the needle. And then the same is true for a purl stitch, only this time I need to bring it forward because that's where the yarn would be if I were purling it. And you insert the needle through the stitch under the needle, and you can tell on a purl stitch because there's a bump there. And now I have come to the twisted knit stitch. So rather than inserting from front to back with a twisted stitch, again I have the yarn in back where it would be if I were working it. I bring the left needle through from back to front and let the old stitch fall off the needle. And what this does is it returns this stitch on the needle to its original position. So at this point, this stitch could be knit, it could be purled, it could be worked through the back. It doesn't matter. It's just like every other stitch was before it had been worked. So I'm going to now tink all the way across, inserting through the front for stitches that were knit or purled. So now I've come to the column of stitches that should have been twisted. I'm going to tink that one first. When a stitch is worked so that it will twist, we insert the working needle through the back. The working needle points to the left, and then we work the stitch, and the stitch that comes off the needle is twisted at the base. It's not open the way a regular stitch is. So in order to fix these stitches right here, which are open at the base, they're not twisted, we need to let them ladder down. So we let the stitch pop off the needle. We make sure the other stitches are not going to fall off. And then we can ladder down so all of the stitches from here down are twisted. So it's this first loop right here that needs to be worked twisted. We want to make sure this loop that's alive is not twisted. And we're going to, when we take a crochet hook and we enter from the back to the front like this. And remember, these stitches twist to the left, so we want the crochet hook. We want to rotate the crochet hook to the left. And then we look at these released ladders, these strands that are the ladders of the column of stitches. We put our crochet hook under it and we pull it through, and you can see that we have the twisted loop underneath it. If we have a standard crochet hook, we need to remove this crochet hook. So we need to pinch that stitch, remove the crochet hook, and then reinsert it through the back once more. And then we can rotate to the left, grab the loop, and pull it through. I have a crochet hook that has a hook at each end. So rather than pulling this one out, instead I can slide to the other end. And this hook is now pointed to the front. So I rotate it to the left and pull it through. Now when I put this back on the needle, I want to put it back on the needle so that it's like any stitch. So I'm going to bring my left needle through the front and let it off the hook. And at this point I can re-knit this row working through the back loop as I need to in order to twist this stitch, and then working the others as I would normally. In some situations, you may have stitches that twist to the right rather than to the left. As I showed in this video, stitches that should twist left are created by rotating the crochet hook to the left and then pulling the loop of yarn through. If your stitches are supposed to twist to the right, then the crochet hook would be rotated to the right instead. If you like my technique videos, you can support me by buying me a coffee on Ko-fi.com. If you have any comments or questions about today's video or suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future, you can leave those down in the comments below or join the discussion in my Ravelry group, Rocks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.